Hello, Mishpacha. It's Courtney, America's Jewish mother. Welcome back to my channel. I am here today with a discussion of Yiddish anarchist poetry. What, you say? What are you talking about? I don't even know what those words together mean. So yes, a discussion of Yiddish anarchist poets. Because over the weekend, I got sucked down a rabbit hole of looking up a whole bunch of information about Jewish anarchism, Yiddish poetry, and Jewish anarchist poets who wrote in Yiddish. So yeah. So this is a sort of overview of this genre. I think a lot of people know that in the early part of the 20th century, a lot of immigrants to the United States became sort of enamored of socialism, especially in the 19-teens, 1920s. This was also true, by the way, of a lot of African-American writers and members of the intelligentsia, like during the Harlem Renaissance. Langston Hughes, Claude McKay, a number of other writers as well. Became quite enamored of socialism. Now, it fell out of favor by the 40s when things started coming out about purges, and then it also fell out of favor even more once the United States started engaging in anti-communist rhetoric, and then of course you had the rise of Joseph McCarthy and the Red Scare, etc., etc. But before all that, both African Americans and a large number of Jews were on the same page about socialism. Now I knew this as someone who has studied both African American and Jewish American literature. But what I did not know about was that there was a whole subsection of Yiddish poets who were anarchists. And I found that really interesting, and so I thought I would share. Now, why are these poets relatively unknown and not talked about today? Well, I think the simplest fact of the matter is because they wrote in Yiddish, and so a lot of their work has not been translated, or if it has been translated, it's not been made widely available, or it's never sort of been consumed by a wide mainstream audience. I think it's been sort of relegated to Jewish studies and Jewish American literature and things of that sort. So there are among the Yiddish anarchist poets, also known as sweatshop poets, by the way. There are a couple of famous ones. One is David Edelstadt. He was considered an early hero of the Jewish working class, and he wrote poetry in Yiddish with the sole purpose of serving the cause of political protest. This is from my Norton Anthology of Jewish American Literature. And I did want to share one of his poems that's anthologized here with you. It's called My Testament. And this was translated by Aaron Kramer, because it was originally written in Yiddish. O comrades mine, when I am dead, carry our banner to my grave, the freedom banner, flaming red, with all the blood that workers gave. And there, the while our banner flutters, sing me my freedom song again, my battle song that rings like fetters around the feet of working men. And even in my grave, that song, that stormy song, will reach my ears, and for my friends enslaved so long, there too shall I be shedding tears. And when I hear a cannon sound, the final siege of want and pain, my song shall trumpet from the ground and set the people's heart aflame. So that was actually written in the 1880s, so even before the turn of the century. Another sweatshop poet who is included in my anthology here is Morris Rosenfeld, who also wrote what I just referred to as sweatshop poetry. And in fact, the one that I'm about to read you, also translated by Aaron Kramer, might be the quintessential sweatshop poem, because it was originally titled in Yiddish, The Sweatshop. But the translated title is Corner of Pain and Anguish. Corner of pain and anguish, there's a worn old house tavern on the street floor. Bible room upstairs. Drunkards sit below, and all day long they souse. Overhead, the pious chant their daily prayers. Higher, on the third floor, there's another room. Not a single window welcomes in the sun. Seldom does it know the blessing of a broom. Rottenness and filth are blended into one. Toiling without let-up in that sunless den, nimble-fingered and, or so it seems, content, sit some 30 blighted women, blighted men, with their spirits broken and their bodies spent. Scurfhead struts among them, always with a frown, brandishing his scepter like a mighty king, for the shop is his, and here he wears the crown, and they must obey him, bow to everything. And this was written, it says circa 1886 to 1896. So again, before the turn of the 20th century. There's another poet, and this is actually the poet that kicked off this whole search for me, who's not even included in this Norton Anthology of Jewish American Literature, by the way. And this man is so obscure, he doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. Can you imagine? But his name is Joseph Boshover. And like these other poets who I've mentioned, he was originally born in the Pale of Settlement, which was an area sort of modern day Ukraine and along in Eastern Europe. It was a Russian territory where Jews were legally allowed to live. Jews could only live within the Pale of Settlement. So they were originally born there and then immigrated to the United States sometime later. And that was also the case for Joseph Boshover. Now, I think he's even more obscure than a David Edelstadt and a Morris Rosenfeld because he wrote under several pseudonyms, and he rarely wrote in English, and the few poems he did publish in English were, I think, published in England under the pseudonym Basil Dahl. That's D-A-H-L, like Roald Dahl. And so, like I said, he rarely wrote in English, and then when he did, it was under a pseudonym, so I think that might be another reason why he doesn't have his own little section in the Jewish American Anthology, just because he didn't have like a ton of literary output, and then what little he did was under like several different names in various places, and I tried looking to see if he had any sort of collected works. And even though he does, it's not translated into English. So that then goes to this idea that has been discussed before on BookTube of how much literature is just not available to us because we don't speak the language. And even though I know like a couple of words and phrases in Yiddish, I mean, it's not like my Yiddish is good enough to go find this guy's anthology and read the whole thing in the original Yiddish. Like, I can't do it, So I did find one translated poem of his called Revolution. Sorry, I'm squinting. It's on my computer. It's a little hard to see. And I think another reason why Boshover was not sort of considered in the same group as the more popular sweatshop poets of Edelstadt and Rosenfeld is because he was a lot more intense, and I think you'll see the influence of anarchism and rising up against the people who own the means of production. You'll see a lot more of that in this poem. He also apparently suffered from mental health issues and was institutionalized for the last 10 to 15 years of his life. I will leave a link down below to where I did find some information about Boshover in case you're interested in knowing more about him. But this is his poem called Revolution, and it's very powerful. By the way, I don't know who translated this, so sorry about that. I come like a proud flaming comet, like the sun when the day starts to rise. I come like a raging high storm with thunder and flash in the skies. I come like a pouring hot lava from volcanoes forever in motion. I come like a storm from the north that frightens and wakes every ocean. I come for the tyranny have turned the nations to thrones full of dread. I come, for they nourish the peace with cannons and powder and lead. I come, for the world is divided, humanity's bond torn apart. I come, for they're closing the common for our generation's heart. I come, for in deserts of power I was here and came of age. I come, for the powerful have awakened and nourished my rage. I come, for humanity's breast cannot kill the strong seed of life. I come, for no one can forever forge in chains human freedom's strife. I led the enslaved, hungry peoples in earlier generations too. I helped them to shed their slavery, to change it for freedom anew. I walked along with all progress, helped it pave for itself a new way, and I'll walk with the nations again and will free them from bondage today. And you, holy sacks of gold, anointed bandits, crowned fools, I shall annihilate you with your false laws and customs and rules. And your heart's yearning for blood I shall pierce with a pointed stake, and your crowns and scepters of gold in my rage I shall break, I shall break. And your colorful purple I shall rend into pieces like tatters, and that the people used to admire in their silly enjoyment that shatters. Your frozen world will then lose its shining, blinding ways, as the snow falling down from white glaciers will melt in the sun's rays. And I shall annihilate your spiderweb morals, old lies, and your priests, the sinister dark ones, I shall stifle to death like flies. And your skies and your ghosts and your gods you shall set up in our lives everywhere. I shall smash and destroy, and pure I will make all the earth and the air. And if you will choke me and hang me and shoot me, your effort is in vain. I do not fear any dungeons, guillotines, gallows, or pain. I shall emerge from the earth with weapons, I'll cover it brave. Until you will sink forever, you'll be wiped out by the grave. So yeah, super intense, right? I will also leave a link down below to this poem, which again, I'm sorry I had to like sort of squint and lean in to read at various points. I couldn't make it bigger on my laptop, even though I tried to zoom in. So yeah, just a little fun Monday introduction to Jewish Yiddish anarchist poets. So yeah, let me know your thoughts about any of these poems that I read. Have you heard of Yiddish anarchist poets before? Yeah, so let me know down in the comments below. I hope everyone is staying healthy and well. Thank you for watching this. I hope you're doing good reading whatever you're reading. And until next time, would it kill you to call your mother?